Warm greetings to everyone watching the sentiments of old age. Don't worry, I'm still healthy. Someday when I'm free, I can go by myself, she said. Heen gently persuaded. Mom, let us go with you, it'll be easier. This time, please have a thorough checkup. She smiled kindly. It's just a general checkup, nothing serious. I'm old, having illnesses is normal. I can handle it myself. In the end, the whole family gave in to her wish. But no one expected that very trip alone would leave her carrying a heavy secret in her chest like a stone pressing on her heart. On Wednesday morning, she put on a long-sleeved sweater, tied a scarf, and carried a small bag with her medical record and a bottle of water. She caught the bus to the station, then walked nearly a kilometer to a familiar private clinic in the city. It had been years since she last sat alone in the cold hallway, holding a test slip, her heart trembling as if pricked by needles. After the ultrasound and chest x-ray, the doctor quietly said, "There are a few abnormal indicators. Would you be willing to stay for further specialized tests?" She nodded. 3 hours later, sitting alone in the waiting room, before her lay the printed results. Suspicious image in the left liver, biopsy recommended. She was no doctor, but life experience had taught her that the word suspicious rarely carried good news. That afternoon, she returned home still smiling and chatting as usual. During dinner, Heen asked, "Mom, was it anything serious?" She only smiled and replied, "Not at all, just a little high cholesterol. The doctor told me to eat less salt and go walking." Thang even joked, "If Mom has high cholesterol, then the whole country should learn your secret to staying healthy." Everyone laughed, except her, who lowered her head, her smile never reaching her eyes. That night, she took the paper out of the drawer, placed it into a small envelope, and hurriedly wrote on the outside, "If one day I am no longer here, open this." She hid it inside her old diary, the place that had carried so many pages of sorrow and joy in her old age. The next day, the phone rang from the clinic. "The results need further comparison. You should have a biopsy soon to be certain." "I understand. I'll arrange it," she answered briefly, then hung up. She told no one, shared with no one. She was afraid her daughter-in-law would lose sleep from worry, afraid her son would neglect his work, afraid her little grandchild would be sad if he heard she was ill. At noon, she sat on the porch watching sunlight filter through the leaves, silently thinking, "I may be old, but I'm not allowed to be weak yet. I still have to go to the market, still have to tell stories to my grandchild. At least until the boy can write the words, 'Grandma,' by himself." That evening, Heen accidentally saw her sitting before the altar, fingering her rosary beads. Her face looked more solemn than usual. Heen gently asked, "Mom, are you tired?" Startled, she shook her head. "No, I was just asking your father to bless the family with health." Heen smiled, but caught the redness in her mother-in-law's eyes. She didn't press further, only sat quietly beside her for a long while. In a corner of the cupboard, the small envelope still lay, holding a truth that could change the coming spring of the whole family. But she chose to keep it hidden, for she knew, none fear death more than those still living in happiness. On Saturday afternoon, Hanoi glowed with golden sunlight, buds began to bloom on the porch. Inside the small house, the air was peaceful, laughter echoed, little Nam ran around everywhere, crawling under the bed and then rummaging in the bookshelf. Suddenly, he pulled out an old, worn brown notebook. "Oh, whose is this?" he exclaimed, his bright eyes sparkling with delight. Nam absent-mindedly flipped through pages filled with crooked handwriting, the ink slightly shaky but still neat. On each page was a date, along with one striking red line. "If one day I am no longer here, open this." The boy tilted his head, not fully understanding the meaning, then hurried to the living room. "Mom, I found this in Grandma's desk drawer." Heen was peeling fruit. At first glance, she thought it was just some old thing the child had dragged out and was about to brush it aside. But when her eyes landed on the notebook cover, her heart clenched. It was her mother-in-law's diary, the one she had always kept hidden upstairs. She opened it. At first, there were only familiar emotional lines. But toward the end, a thin sealed envelope appeared, with slanted handwriting on the outside. "Do not open while I am still alive." Heen's hands trembled. A strange sense of foreboding rose inside her. Slowly, she tore it open. Inside was a medical report. Suspicion of liver tumor, biopsy recommended. The bold red letters seemed to rip the air apart. Her whole body froze. The envelope slipped from her hand onto the floor. "Mom, since when?" The sob caught in her throat. She rushed into Mrs. Bitch's room. The door was only half closed. The old woman lay on her side, eyes half shut, her face pale. Heen called softly, her voice breaking, "Mom, why didn't you tell us?" Mrs. Bitch opened her eyes, saw the envelope in her daughter-in-law's hand, breathed slowly, then said, "Nom must have found it, didn't he?" Heen burst into tears, collapsing at the bedside. "How long were you going to hide it? Until the day you left us?" The old woman turned her face, her voice low, "It's only suspicion for now, nothing certain. I didn't want you all to worry." Heen buried her face in her mother-in-law's hand, sobbing, "I was wrong. I should have noticed your pain, your weariness, but you kept hiding it, kept smiling." Mrs. Bitch's hand shook as she patted her back. "I don't blame you. I just wanted, when I go, for you to remember me as someone who stayed cheerful, who never complained." Heen shook her head. "That's not enough, Mom. You still have to tell Nom fairy tales. You still have to teach me how to live kindly." That afternoon, Thang came home to find his wife and mother in tears, clinging to each other. His hands trembled as he held the report, then he sank down, clutching his head. "Why did you hide it from me, Mom?" She gave a faint, sad smile. "Because I knew if you found out, you'd lose sleep, lose peace of mind. I only wanted the days left to still be filled with your laughter." Thang choked back tears, kneeling before her. "You once forgave me when I drove you out of the house. If this time you slip away in silence, we'll never be able to live with the guilt." Mrs. Bitch broke down crying. For the first time in her life, she truly felt kept, loved, and even allowed to be in pain. That evening, the whole family sat together. Heen held her hand. "Tomorrow I'll take you to the big hospital. Whatever the result, we'll be by your side." Nom hugged her tightly. "Grandma, you still have to finish telling me the story of Tam Cam." She hugged the boy, smiling faintly. "Yes, Grandma isn't going anywhere yet. I still have to see you grow up." That night, the moon shone unusually bright. On the balcony, Mrs. Bitch stood with Heen, their hands clasped tight. No words were needed, for from that moment on, every secret had turned into a bond. A week later, the family took her to Bok Mai Hospital for a biopsy. She no longer avoided it, but asked for only one thing: "Don't let little Nom see me in the hospital. If he asks, I wouldn't know how to answer without breaking his heart." Heen embraced her. "I promise. We'll make sure Nom only remembers you smiling." She smiled, but deep in her eyes, a storm still lingered. On a gray Monday morning, drizzle filled the air. The doctor placed a file on the desk, speaking slowly. "Mrs. Bitch has malignant liver cancer. The tumor is small, but in a difficult location for surgery. The treatment options are chemotherapy or palliative care." The room fell into crushing silence. Thang gripped his hands so tightly his lips turned pale. Heen burst into tears, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Thang's voice tightened. "So, how much time does Mom have left?" The doctor didn't answer right away. He spoke slowly. "If treatment is pursued actively, and her spirit stays strong, perhaps a few years. Without treatment, it may only be months." The air in the room froze. Thang and Heen left the hospital holding the medical file as though cradling all their sorrow. Outside, the rain was piercing cold, seeping through their clothes. On the way home, neither spoke a word. At the alley entrance, Thang suddenly burst out. "We can't let Mom know the full truth yet. We have to do something first." Heen only nodded, tears streaming silently. Deep inside, she had already made a vow. If these were truly her mother-in-law's final days, they would make them beautiful. That night, after Mrs. Bitch had fallen asleep, the couple sat at the table with the laptop open, notebook spread, pen in hand. Together, they drafted a 100-day plan for her. One special thing for each day, one small joy. Dishes she loved, old friends she longed to see, a book she had left unfinished, a new ao dai, a bustling countryside market, a short trip to the sea. Thang declared, "Even if I have to take leave from work, I'll go with Mom." Heen looked at him and nodded, not in agreement, but in determination. On the first morning, Heen rose early to cook Bak-style pork ball noodle soup. The aroma filled the house. Surprised, Mrs. Bitch asked as she came downstairs, "Are we having guests today?" Heen smiled, pulling out a chair. "Yes, our guest of honor is you." Thang stepped out, holding a small bouquet of daisies, the very flowers his mother had once said she loved. She laughed, but tears glistened in her eyes. On the second day, they visited Mrs. Hang, her old friend from the cooperative days. The two embraced, reminiscing with laughter that often broke into sobs. On the third, Heen took her to a salon. She sat still in the chair, gazing at her fresh hairstyle, overcome with emotion. Standing behind, Heen wrapped her arms around her shoulders. "You're beautiful, Mom. You deserve to be." Day by day, Nam drew pictures for her, each with childish scrawls. "Grandma, you are my sunshine." Heen recorded every moment in photos and videos. Thang opened a bank account in his mother's name so she could buy whatever she wished without asking. They never spoke of illness, chemotherapy, or tumors, only of laughter, embraces, and meals warmer than spring. On the 15th day, Mrs. Bitch sat on the balcony with a cup of tea, calling the couple over softly. "Are you hiding something from me?" They glanced at each other nervously. She smiled gently. "I'm not foolish. I knew since the day you cried but said nothing. But I don't blame you. I only want to say this. If I must go, let me leave in your arms. All I need is to hear, 'We need you, Mom.'" Thang embraced her, and Heen pressed her face to her shoulder. In that moment, there were no loud sobs, only a tender silence, like sunlight pooling in open palms. On a cold New Year's Eve in Hanoi, drizzle veiled the small house adorned with offerings, 5 fruit tray, bon chung, gladiolas by the ancestral altar. Children's chatter filled the air, meat stew simmered on the stove, but a void lingered. Mrs. Bitch had passed away 2 months earlier, on the 89th day of the 100-day plan. She hadn't finished the journey, yet she had lived those days to the fullest. The night she passed, she left behind no reproach, no regret, only a sealed brown envelope placed on the altar. On the outside, open on the morning of New Year's Day. That morning, Heen lit incense, while Thang held Nam before the altar. Dressed in ao dai, the family stood in silence before Heen slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, the strokes shaky but clear. "To my children, if you are reading this letter, it means I am no longer here to share bon chung with you. Don't grieve too much. I have already lived again. Lived through the days I was home, through your eyes, through Nam's voice, through Thang's hand clasping mine. Every meal, every blessing, every flower in those 100 days gave me a complete life. I needed nothing more, I only needed to live as myself." The letter ended, leaving behind a warm presence in the hearts of those still living, the certainty that love had turned each final day into something whole. Asterisk. I just want to leave a few more words. Heen, you have long been a daughter to me, so don't torment yourself anymore. I have never been angry with you, only regretful that we didn't find common ground sooner. Thang, as a man, you must learn to listen before you decide. Whether a mother is present in the house or not is not about age, but about whether your heart chooses to stay open. Nam, if one day you read this letter, remember that loving your grandmother is also loving your family. Grow into a man who knows how to hold your mother's hand, just as your father held mine all these years. I may be gone, but don't be sad, I've only moved into another room. When you miss me, light a stick of incense. I will still be here, only no longer asking for hot tea. With love, from your mother, asterisk. The letter slipped softly onto the table. Tears streamed down Thang's face as he turned away. Heen held Nam close, sobbing. But the child, still innocent, asked, "Mom, where has Grandma gone?" Heen's voice trembled. "She's gone to heaven, my dear." Yet in their hearts, she had never truly left. Nam ran to his desk and pulled out the old notebook his grandmother had kept for him, even before he could write. Today Nam babbled his first word to Grandma. Today Nam fell on the balcony. Today Nam sulked and refused to eat porridge. Today Nam hugged Grandma and asked who she was, and she smiled. "Someone who will love you forever." Nam couldn't yet understand, but Thang and Heen did. And the house filled with a special kind of warmth, the light of memory, of the love a mother had left behind. On the afternoon of the first day of the new year, Heen tidied the family altar and looked up at Mrs. Bitch's portrait. The gentle smile was still there, eyes brimming with forgiveness. She pressed her palms together and whispered, "Mother, this year no one will drive you away anymore. You are here forever now." The spring breeze stirred, peach blossoms fell gently onto the floor. The house felt warmer than ever. Dear friends, some mothers leave this world quietly, yet leave behind an invaluable treasure, love. A mother does not need a life of 100 years. She only needs her days to be complete in the embrace of her children. Sometimes, a fleeting moment on the first day of the year becomes a miracle that keeps a family bound together. Thank you for journeying with us through this story. If ever you have been careless with your mother, open your heart before it is too late. For having a mother in the house means spring will always remain.